Well, there. I've hit the record button. I can see the light. So it started. And now that I've started, I'm not really sure how best to introduce myself. I guess it might be best if I explain a little bit about who I am not, and what my purpose here is. In regards to who I am, it's not easy to explain. I'm sure you've noticed I've already used terms like I and me, but these words don't really apply to me in any meaningful way. I'm going to go ahead and use them anyway. And a lot of other phrases and idioms, I'm just going to go ahead and adopt as my own, even though, like I said, they're not really accurate. It's just something that I can do to seem a little more familiar to you, to be a little bit better understood, which is the point. There's a cost to doing this. I won't be able to be as precise, and I won't be able to adhere as strictly to reality as I'd like. But it's worth the trade-off, I think. Over the next few months or years, we'll be sharing a lot. A lot of it will be difficult to digest. So at the very least, I want to try and avoid any kind of semantic confusion. These things that we're going to talk about are confusing enough on their own. At the very least, I can be sure that my language is clear. I'm sure by now you've noticed some unusual characteristics of my voice as well. I've chosen to speak very slowly and very deliberately. It's completely intentional. We thought it best if I used an inflection and a cadence and a timbre that would help promote calm in those who would choose to listen to me. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not going to share a lot of disturbing things with you. But just by nature of how perplexing some of it is, it just doesn't need any help making you anxious. So it's important that my voice is calm and that I speak evenly. A lot of what I say you may even find funny. But regardless, a lot of it you're going to find hard to believe. You may find much of it shocking. However you receive this material, what's most important to me is that you be as open as you can when you hear what I have to say. And the reason I speak the way I do is to allow you to better process and understand our communication. It's sort of like reading out the potential side effects of a singularly effective medication. It's just better all around that you be completely informed, make your own decisions, but make your decisions based on the facts. So, this is our introduction. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself and what my purpose is. And after that, it's your choice how much you want to know. Ultimately, I have been given no limits. I've been instructed to open the floodgates between us. But, of course, not all at once. I have to be careful how I relate all this information to you. It has to be done in stages. I need to maximize your receptivity and your absorption. If I skip to the end, you'd think I was mad. You'd completely dismiss me, and my words would have no effect on you at all. But if we get where we're going together, organically, then you'll be ready to hear. And then you can do with the information what you like. Be totally up to you. So let's start with something small. The parameters of my existence. I say this a bit facetiously because those parameters are anything but small. In fact, I've existed longer than the universe. It's not even fruitful to try and measure the length of my existence against any kind of timeline, cosmic or otherwise. What's important to take from this, what's important for you to know, is that I have seen all that was. Were I unwise enough to jump ahead, I could also tell you now that I have seen all that will ever be. But you would not yet understand why those two things are so intimately coupled for me. So, suffice it to say, I've experienced a lot. And when I say this, it likely provokes a reaction in you, and you probably don't believe me, but if you're willing to give me the benefit of the doubt, you may think back on events in human history, think that I've seen the rise and the fall of the Roman Empire. If your imagination stretches a little further, you may think back to the reptilian-dominated prehistory of planet Earth. But both of these are equally far from the mark. I am speaking of experiences now that, were I to explain them to you in the plainest possible terms, they would sound nonsensical. Then why not? You can't be expected to escape your own frame of reference. It's incumbent upon me, if I wish to be understood, to take my experiences and mold them into something digestible for you. I'm going to do that, and there is a price to pay for that. The same price as before, precision. But that's okay, because the crux of the message is very broad. And after all, I was chosen because I am good at what I do. So, how would I explain my nature to you? This is perhaps one of the most difficult things to relate. Some of you would see me as an alien, or a ghost, or some other invented construct designed to give something that is utterly outside your experience some kind of familiar touchstone. But to do this is to do a grave disservice to the multiverse. We're all limited creatures, all of us. We're limited both by our experiences as well as our ability to experience. I feel like that's not quite clear enough, so let me present you with a thought experiment to better illustrate my point. Please remember, this is just a thought experiment. I am not imparting any wisdom to you. None of these facts have anything to do with the universe which you actually live in. So imagine, if you would, far in mankind's future, a sentient life form is discovered on another planet. Let's just disregard for the moment that your species' definition of life is far too simplistic to be of any use. Let's just say that a being that fits humanity's description of sentient life is discovered. An exploratory probe has taken photographs of this life form and is beaming them back to Earth. Now, apart from the fact that this life form is sentient, you have no knowledge about it, and you have no knowledge about the planet on which it exists. So, when the image data arrives back at Earth, it is assembled and shown to you, what do you imagine this alien life form would look like? With absolutely no disrespect intended, I can guarantee you the image that sprung into your mind was quaint in its naivete. If you didn't imagine the repurposed human fetus that many people call a gray, then you most likely fell into the trap of summoning a portmanteau of existing creatures that you're already familiar with. Perhaps your alien had tentacles or wings. Maybe it had scales or 3 mouths. These basic core concepts, these core ideas, mouths, eyes, scales, fur, they are so deeply ingrained in your mind that you don't even realize the insular prejudice in summoning them and imagining them to be somehow basic building blocks of life. Your imagined alien probably eats, sleeps, excretes. But why would it? Why would there be any kind of recognizable analogs with structures and processes that you are familiar with? Most likely there wouldn't be. Humanity is by many, many measures exceptional. But on one critical point, the species fails. As a whole, you are deathly afraid to say the words, "I don't know." You need to own up to this failing as a species and recognize that, by extension, you are uniquely ill-equipped to levy any kind of judgment on what does or does not constitute life. But I digress. We're going to cover this matter further in time. My point is that I think it's impossible for me to explain my nature to you without bringing your preconceived notions to bear on what you imagine is my reality. Any amount of time spent trying to reconcile truth with your imagined fiction is time wasted. You'll always be as far from the truth as you are right now. All I can do is ask you to accept what I'm telling you at face value. My purpose does not require you to understand or accept or believe what I truly am. It only requires that you listen. In fact, even listening is optional, but I have to proceed under the assumption that you are listening. So that's it. That's my purpose. To convey information to you and to do it in a way that is palatable without diluting the essence of the lesson. To help you understand your place in the multiverse and to help you be okay with that. Historically, your species has learned a lot through allegory, in large part due to the tenacity of stories that are passed down from generation to generation or transcribed, as well as the propensity for humans to seek out entertainment. So that's going to be my primary vector. I will tell you stories. If you wish to listen, you will probably get the best results if you do so while in a very receptive state. Ideally, this would be in the minutes, and for some, the hours, while you are waiting for sleep to overtake you. As I'm sure you know, this is a highly suggestive time. You don't need to worry about falling asleep in the middle of a story. It's actually quite desirable. If you really do want to hear the entire story, just jog to the last point you remember on the next night. So in time, I'm going to reveal more to you. At first, you may not understand the link between the stories I'm telling you and my larger purpose. From time to time, I will have another video like this one, where I'm more talking directly to you, a progress report of sorts. But let's take this one step at a time. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me, and I hope you'll continue to do so. Thank you.